Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to my kitchen. Today I want to demonstrate how you can make harvest 8-grain wheat bread.
Like this. You'll love its wholesome goodness and nutty flavor. I'll be using 2 cups bread flour, 1 cup whole wheat flour, 1 tablespoon sugar, 1½ teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon instant yeast, 2/3 cup harvest grains, 1 tablespoon extra virgin olive oil, and 14 ounces cool tap water.
I've set up my workspace with my utensils and my ingredients.
I'm going to start with the dry ingredients. 2 cups bread flour. I use a scoop and shake method for measuring flour. This recipe is very forgiving and you don't have to be exact. One cup whole wheat flour, 1 tablespoon sugar, 1½ teaspoon salt. I use a heaping teaspoon to get my teaspoon and a half. 1/4 teaspoon instant yeast, sometimes referred to as bread machine yeast. Before we add the flavor ingredients, I want to mix the dry ingredients to ensure that the sugar, salt, and yeast are evenly distributed throughout the flour. Next, 2/3 cup King Arthur's Harvest Grain Blend. Generally speaking, I try not to be brand specific, but I did not want to give my viewers a list of 8 grains to buy. Both the cost and availability could be a problem. So I'm using a prepackaged blend specifically designed for breads. But you may want to try a blend that is available in your local store. It's part of the fun of being your own baker. Before we add the wet ingredients, I'm going to give the dry ingredients another stir to make sure that the grains are evenly distributed throughout the flour. Now the wet ingredients. 1 tablespoon olive oil, and 14 ounces cool tap water. Next, we'll combine the wet and dry ingredients. This is one of the easier no-knead breads to mix because of the extra 2 ounces of water, but the seeds will absorb the excess water while proofing. I'm just going to scrape the sides of the bowl and form the dough into a ball. And we're done.
Now that was easy. No mixer, no kneading, no yeast proofing. All we had to do was combine the wet and dry ingredients. All we need to do now is cover the bowl with plastic wrap and leave it on the counter to proof overnight, and Mother Nature will do the kneading for us. I'll see you in the morning.
No-knead dough should be proofed for 8 to 24 hours, which gives you a lot of flexibility. You can make the dough in the morning and bake it for your evening meal, or you can make the dough in the evening, bake the next morning, and have oven-fresh bread for your lunch. The dough has proofed overnight and more than doubled in size. It's time to fold, shape, and proof the dough a second time. Bakers have known for years that bread benefits from long proofing times. The no-knead method takes advantage of this principle. It uses a minimum amount of yeast and long proofing times to develop flavor. Meanwhile, the long proofing times replaces the arduous task of kneading. Mother Nature does the kneading for you. I set up my workspace with the dough off to the left, flour and utensils off to the right, and off to the far right I have an 8-inch skillet and no-stick spray. That's what I would typically do, but there's something new I want to show you. So I have an egg, a fork, and a strainer, and some seeds on the workspace. I want to show you how to apply an egg wash and seeds using the proofing skillet. I'll start by spraying the skillet with no-stick spray. Now the egg wash. I know some of you don't like separating an egg, so I'll be using the whole egg. I'll put the egg in a bowl, add a splash of water, less than a teaspoon, and mix it with a fork. Next, I'll pour the egg through a wire sieve, which will remove all the undesirable parts. Swirl the egg wash around in the skillet and dump out the excess. Last step is to sprinkle the skillet with seeds. Okay, the skillet is ready. Let's get started with the dough. I'll lightly dust the workspace with flour and scrape the dough out of the bowl. Its strange nature tells us Mother Nature has done her job. With floured hands, I'm going to lightly pat the dough to flatten. Then, using a plastic bowl scraper, I'll fold the dough over onto itself, forming a ball. And the dough is ready for the skillet. I've placed the dough in the skillet and covered it with a flour sack towel to proof. Before I leave the kitchen, I'll prep the oven. I've positioned the rack on the lower part of the oven and inserted the baking vessel. I do it in advance so I don't forget. I'm going to proof the dough for 1.5 hours, and I want to preheat the oven for half an hour, so I'm setting the timer for 1 hour. Dough should be proofed for 1 to 2 hours, and the oven should be preheated. While we're waiting for the bread to bake, I want to make a point. If I wanted an oval loaf, I would use my oblong casserole dish. If I wanted a rectangular loaf, my rectangular casserole dish. If I wanted a bowlie, my 5-quart Dutch oven. If I wanted a smaller but taller bowlie, my 3-quart Dutch oven. And if I wanted a long loaf, I would use my Superstone baker. But in this case, I want a unique shape, so I'll be using my 2.5-quart eggplant casserole dish. It's been 1 hour, and I'm setting the oven to 450 degrees.
The dough has been proofing for 1.5 hours, and the oven has been preheating for 30 minutes. It's time to bake the bread.
Okay, watch how easy it is to transfer the dough to the Dutch oven when you use a skillet as a proofing basket. Poof! The dough is in the Dutch oven, garnished and ready to go. That wasn't that easy. I'll shake to center. I'm not going to score the dough. I'll let Mother Nature decide the pattern. And it's ready for the oven. Next, we'll set the timer for 30 minutes. I'll see you then. The bread should be baked for 30 minutes with the lid on the Dutch oven. It's been 30 minutes. I've taken the top off and reset the timer for an additional 3 minutes. The experts recommend baking the bread with the top off for 15 to 30 minutes to get a rustic crust. Personally, my wife and I prefer a softer crust for our everyday bread. Our preference is to bake the bread for 3 minutes with the top off. You should experiment and develop your own preferences.
It's been 3 minutes. The bread is ready. Let's take a look.
Well, what do you think? This harvest baked grain is special. I think you'll really enjoy making it. I hope you found the video to be informative. My goal is to provide 4 layers of information to assist my subscribers. The videos are one of those layers. This summer or fall, I plan to come out with a cookbook which will discuss the ingredients and steps in greater detail, give 2 detailed recipes for beginners, and give abbreviated recipes for more experienced bakers.